No one is in the room except me and my air conditioner. This is what it's like in the beginning. I just sit around and do nothing. And I look at my camera weird and I watch the countdown. Oh, I should get stuff. Hang on. And I'm screwing up my lighting already. It really sucks being a professional podcaster. You can't walk without screwing up your lighting. People are here. Oh, look, hi. We're waiting on people who said they wanted to talk today. Let's find out if they were honest about that. Let's find out if they really wanted to talk. If anybody else wants to talk about this shit, this Ziploc bag full of papers I have, let me know and I'll shoot you the link. Otherwise don't. Talk about it in the comments. It's been a weird week. It's been fun. All this stuff coming out. It's been good for me. I don't know how good it's been for you guys. But it's really put a lot into perspective for me, which I'm enjoying. Let's give people time. Because, if there's one thing that this puzzle needs, it's perspective. Oh yeah, we should have drinks. Why don't we have drinks? I have monkey shoulder. I don't know if this is any good or not. I mean, somebody brought it to my house and left it here. I don't know if it's any good. I guess we're gonna find out. Perspective is needed for this hunt. I agree. Much needed perspective. Time, dates, all of that. We can put shit into perspective. Because, for the longest time, people thought Byron worked on this thing for 4 years or whatever. Poured his heart and soul into it. Nope. Apparently not. That might be good. If it wasn't watered down with this ice. But that was the big thing for me. People have asked, gin or whiskey? It's whiskey. I need to drink gin. Gin tastes like dirty socks. Yeah, whiskey. That was fun. Coughing in your ear like that. That's what pros do. Ice chips. Yeah. So, I learned a while back that James Bond takes his martinis, shaken, not stirred, and that's to break up the ice to water down the drinks. Because if you stir the drink, the ice stays intact. But if you shake the drink, the ice breaks up and little parts of it melt, and it waters the drink down. And that means James Bond is a wuss. New documents. Houston Dave's like, new documents. Yeah. So what we've released so far is a completely different litany of jewels that was used in late 1981. The date of the casks being made. There's also this one. This one comes later. Yeah, so Jo Ellen had some notes that she released a while back, and I got some more. We're just kind of putting out just to buy, like, just to give some people something to talk about, because all of this stuff, well, 90% of it is going to come out at the meetup anyway. I'm not going to release contracts like that. I think that would be a shitty thing to do, like, because it's all about money, and it's got a lot of personal information and stuff. So I'm just not going to do that. I feel like it's better to just not release them than to release them with a bunch of like Sharpie marks. Like, I could make copies of this and then redact stuff, but I feel like that's kind of a shit way to do it. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. What do you guys think? Should I just redact stuff? I guess I should ask the people whose contracts it is too, because one person's like, don't release my contract. So can't release that one. The rest of this stuff, like this manuscript, was sort of poured over, not by me, mind you, by someone else before me, and hints were removed. Like anything you could consider a hint, I guess, was removed. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in it though, like especially like when you get into the back of the book. You know how like people have always thought in the Handy Mandy Corps they use the name Andy a lot, and people are always like, that's a hint to somebody else. No, what it is in the beginning, fuck, I don't want to mess with the focus. In the beginning, Handy Mandy Corps' name was Handy Andy. And there's like a, where did I put it? There is part of the book where Byron like they typed out Handy Andy, and Byron scratched it out and put Manticore, and they left the Andy in the book, like the copy, like the editor or whatever didn't catch the edit, and left it as Handy Andy. There's a lot of cool stuff like that, like stuff when I was reading the back of the book, like little things didn't make sense, and like stylistically, or it didn't flow in sentences. And when you read this, you go, oh, there was an edit they didn't catch. Any previous versions of the verses? I don't know, because like when, I mean, I assume there are previous versions of the verses out there, but there aren't in this. Because like I said, it was stripped of hints. So, but yeah, I assume there are previous verses out there, probably with the person who went through all this for hints. But yeah, there's a lot of things like names are changed. Those are fun. Like fair folks' names are changed, and descriptions are changed. But like you'll be able to tear through all of this, because we're just gonna put it out. Like I don't feel like it's fair to. As soon as I saw some of this stuff, I was like, it's not fair of me to, number one, not put it out, like to say I have this, and because like it old podcast days, when we got stuff like this, we'd probably just like make an episode and talk about it and like try to tell you what all was there, and I didn't feel that was fair to people, because like there's just so much stuff, and there's no way that we could possibly go over it all, and then there will always be that lingering thought, like what's being held back. So I figured the most fair thing to do is just release it. But then like people kept talking about it, because we weren't going to release it until the meetup, and people kept talking about it, and I was like, well, let's just put out parts of it. Like later on, everything will fit into context, but we could take these big questions from The Secret, like When did Byron bury the casks? When did he start working on the puzzle? We can take these big questions and we can just put out part of it and answer those, right? And I have no, there's no, like, I'm not afraid of somebody finding something in the rest of the book that contradicts or whatever, you know, an idea that because it's in black and white. So yeah, that was the goal. It was like, well, let's start having these conversations now. And they've kind of helped me, at least, like, put into perspective different hunters, right? Like, there aren't many. Hang on. Oh, I guess Sunday's gonna come in. That's gonna be fun. She hearted the message with the links. I guess that's what that means. There aren't many facts. So a separate tab at 12 treasures later. Yeah, kind of. We haven't figured out how. I keep saying we. It's just me. I haven't figured out how to put. I mean, there's just going to be a PDF at first. Like, I'll put out on Facebook. I'll put out everywhere. Just a PDF of everything. But then I do want to separate the pages on 12 treasures. And what I'm thinking about doing is going to in the American edition portion of 12 treasures, just finding the pages that these correspond to, which is going to be a little bit difficult because they're not laid out in the same way. Just finding the corresponding page and adding the manuscript page to it. I have audio of Sunday.
Hey. Oh, sorry. Turn on the camera.
But no video. Oh. Let me turn to Zoom. Oh, look, it's Sunday. Hi.
Hey. I'm excited to be here. This is exciting stuff.
Is it?
The litany?
What are you most excited? Oh, with the litany?
Yes.
Yeah.
Although I have no idea what to think now. It kind of changed stuff for me, I guess.
I think that's good. I was, before you came on, I was talking about basically because I framed all of this as an experiment, right?
Yeah.
And nobody knew what I was experimenting with. But now that I put out most of the stuff, I guess I can say it's pretty simple. There aren't many facts in The Secret, right? There's a whole lot of opinions.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see what would happen to hunters if we just interjected facts. Like, here is a fact. There is nothing. There's no, like, I'm not trying to explain it to you. I'm not trying to do anything. Like, I'll ask you a question. Like, I asked the question, how long did Byron spend working on The Secret or whatever? Get everybody's opinion, and then just, bam, here's a fact. Now, how does that affect the way you look at the puzzle? Does it not affect it at all? Does it drastically change certain things for you? Or are you just kind of absorbing it into what you already thought? And that tells me what type of hunters I'm working with. Like, from now on, if somebody messages me and is like, you know, Byron worked on this shit for years and he did all of it, I can automatically be like, facts don't really matter to you. Yeah. Does that make sense?
No, it does. We all have that. You know, we all have the, you know, I think how we think it works, you know, like, and if even, I don't know, some ideas, like, even I get some ideas sent to me sometimes, you know, and and you automatically look at it on how I think it works. And some stuff, it just kind of falls outside of that envelope where you're like, kind of like what Cole was talking about, where he was like, some stuff you could have it fit 19 different ways, but it's still not, it's so far removed at that point. You're like, how the hell could you expect someone to get there, you know, in a reproducible way, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah. So I don't like, you were saying, I was listening to you, and then I had like a comment about something you said, and then it completely slipped my mind. I don't know. Like, the fact that there's so many thoughts about how these things, like the fact that nobody's known for how this puzzle worked, or like how it was put together, that was a big question that's informed people's theories for so long. It was really important that now we still, like, there's always going to be questions, right? But now we at least have some context. Like we at least know before X date, these casts couldn't have been buried. There's no possible
Right.
way
That was great.
because they weren't.
Yeah.
Like before X date, nobody could work on these dolls. You know, before
Yes.
X date, these paintings could not be started.
Right.
You know so. And there's still already people out there like it was the reason that I went with the Litany was because even with the dates, there were people out there who were like, well, that doesn't mean Byron couldn't have started the puzzle years before, right? Started the backbone of the puzzle and started working on what he wanted to do and working on where he wanted to bury these things. And then you put out the Litany and you were like, well, back then the puzzle was completely different. So
yeah. I mean, anything's possible, but you have to go into the realm of like what is probable. You know, at some points, you're like, some stuff is too complicated to be because if you think about it, when you're building a puzzle, you have to have how can people solve this? Like, what are the pieces that they can put together? You know, and I don't know. Early on, I don't know if it was Matt, maybe it was Matt Sparks, who was just like early on, and it's always stuck with me. But he's like, look, these are words that are on plaques. These are words that are, you know, they describe this place, and it's not like, you know, I mean, I don't know, I'm rambling, but it's
okay.
It's like one-to-one is kind of what you're looking for, you know. You don't necessarily, of course, there's always like the books, the
like Abroad in America books.
Abroad in America, right? And then I remember you saying like, does that take it from a one-to-one because you got to go to the book, then you find the quote. But then what about if it connects, that quote connects right back into something else that's given by the puzzle? Doesn't that take it back to a one-to-one? You know, if it comes back on the back end.
So here's what I've always thought about that book. Like we have Abroad America is a rare book that you're probably not going to find. You know, it would be hard for a kid to stumble on that in 1981, right?
Sure.
But if a kid had stumbled upon that, those two clues would automatically tell him cities. Automatically. Take every bit of puzzle out of those two verses and tell you cities. They were like drastically important clues.
Right.
So it makes sense that they would be obscure like that if they're giving you 90% of the information that you need for this puzzle.
Yeah.
Somebody in the comments like said something. I got to go back and read it because I think they're a little bit misinformed. Oh, Simon Baldwin said that JJP said there was no Boston cask and you and most people ignored that. So when like there's this
we've already found
there's this weird, like there's a couple of people that are trying desperately to say that John Palancar is just lying to everybody, and they're using Boston as an example, and they're like, John Palancar said for years that there was no cask in Boston, and then all of a sudden we found one, and that's not what happened. What happened was the Boston cask was found, and we got a picture, and wasn't 100% sure if it was legit, so I emailed John Palancar, and I was like, hey, this guy says he found a cask in Boston. Expedition Unknown is supposedly involved. And before I go public with it, and put my reputation on the line, I want to know if there's some validity to it. And John Palancar immediately wrote me back and went, I don't even think there is a cask in Boston. So then I immediately sent him the picture of it. And I was like, well, here's a picture. And he was like, holy shit, I can't believe they finally found it. He was like, I knew it was in a ball field in Boston, but how many ball fields could there be in Boston? And then he asked me if he could contact Josh Gates. And I was like, well, I think he already knows, but sure. And that's the end of that conversation. John Palancar doesn't like lie. And I, back then I wasn't super close friends with him. So John Palancar doesn't necessarily lie when he wants to talk about something. But if you ask him a direct question out of the blue, 100% going to lie to you about it.
Well, also chalk it up to human nature too. If you have no proof, you're just fishing. Like it was just a fishing call. Like, oh, we found one in Idaho. You know, like he's like, there's not one in Idaho. Like until you have some kind of proof, what else could he say? Yeah. You can't give any answers away.
And like his Facebook account gets messages like that all the time. They're like, I don't want any answers and I don't want you to say anything. I just want to show you this. It's like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Anyway. So what did the litany change for you?
The litany, oh my God. Well, first of all, I was surprised. I was really, for me, the litany is made, each couplet or whatever is made up of three parts. You got the immigration group, the name of the stone, and then whatever that extra stuff is. And I had kind of come to think of the extra stuff as like a clue, like an extra clue that maybe just didn't fit in to the verse very well or whatever. You know what I mean? It was kind of, or bat and clean up, like, hey, we left this part out, let's, but there's so much of the extra stuff that was in that first draft when the stones are all different and stuff like that. And you're like, I don't, I don't see that he could do the lowland sprites in St. Augustine. Like that St. Augustine can be nothing but Spanish, right? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, there's just, so then are you like, is, is this just him describing what he thinks of the jewel? Is that it? Like that, it could be it. I don't know. I would have told you before that came out, I would have told you 100% they are a clue. Every single one is a clue, that just helps. It like fills in a gap somewhere that the
Yeah.
verse and the painting didn't get to.
Yeah. I don't.
But now I don't know. I don't know if that's true at
Like,
all.
I think when I put up that poll, people were like, "Well, what's drastic? What's drastic even
I
mean?
said it. I
Does
did.
it mean like maybe the gems are a little different? No, every single thing on the litany is completely different. Now, I mean, there are some stuff that's vaguely the same.
Yeah.
Like on here, it's like one of them is streaked with northern lights, and the other one's like shifting,
Yeah.
shining smoke. Like it's kind of
Yeah.
the same
Yeah.
thing. The St. Augustine one is still talks about like wild field flowers, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So some of it's kind of the same, but drastically different.
It's scrambled in such a way that it's like it makes you question everything. You know what I mean? You're like, some of the things, like, okay, well, he got rid of the bloodstone and he got rid of sardonyx, and it seems like he just upgraded those stones,
Yeah.
instead of like a polished rock, you get like an actual stone or like a jewel, or whatever. So those kind of make sense, but
I mean, to me, looking at those, because they're all birthstones, kind of.
yes, they
Like
are. Yeah.
what I saw it as was like it was too hard. Like you don't read these and automatically assume birthstones. Like it would take
Yeah.
you a good bit of research.
That's a good
So
point.
you just change it to something a little easier. Like we're stuck. We've been stuck for like 20 or 30 years now in the ass end of this puzzle, right? At the very
Yeah.
end. Like it's the
Yeah.
it's the bottom, it's the last part we can't figure out. So we keep going back to the rest of the book, assuming that there is like it's that the other part of the book is a clue to the last part of this puzzle, and we
Yeah.
forget like we've already used this, right? We may not have used it all the way, but we've already it's already been
Yes.
used as a clue. To use it twice, I don't know. I've always assumed the litany is a way to give you an immigration group, a gem, a month, time, whatever, to tie everything together.
Yeah, I love the way you wrote up the litany. I think that was the best description I'd ever heard of it, because it did kind of pull everything together as far as like sometimes the theme, like it would give you a theme. But I don't know, like I agree. I like your idea of you switched them out for more recognizable birthstones, because then, yeah, that's a huge part. Like we need to get, assuming we need to get that there's a birthstone or there's a month or there's, that theme underlying, that would make a lot of sense and make it a lot easier to get that point. But I don't know, you've used up the immigration and you've used up the birthstone, and now that there's a month tie or something going on with that, but you still have this other part, this other 6, 7, 8 words,
Yeah.
and I don't know, like I would have told you that New York, the sunstone, so the previous version has the sunstone frozen fire, where the published one has royal sunstone. But I would have told you that was the Statue of Liberty. But did he go Spanish for the Statue of Liberty? Like that doesn't make a lot of sense either. And I don't know, maybe it was all just still in. I do like that it was in flux. You can see that it was in flux. You can see that they found better pieces and better fits for things and plug those in there. And then, so
It's almost to me like in this version of it, the immigration didn't matter. right? It wasn't
Right.
until later
Yeah.
on when it seems like the only thing that mattered was the birthstones, because they're just matched up in weird ways that don't make any sense. And what happened later was they were like, oh, immigration should be important, so
Yeah.
let's tie because this is not immigration heavy at all, where the other one is very much immigration heavy. So it seems like the change to me probably came from that more than anything. They're like, oh, we can tie an immigration to these different whatevers, and we can have the fair folk running. You know what I'm saying? And
For
that's how
sure.
it changed.
They
Because
needed a
like,
stronger tie to the origins.
yeah,
Maybe if they, yeah.
like the ones that didn't change here, like Chicago, not a
Yeah.
super
Not
not
a
a
change
super
a bit. A lot of
huge,
work.
yeah, but not a super huge Irish city. Like,
Right.
that should have been Boston. Why wasn't it Boston? I
True.
don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, but there's 13 of them. So then was the birthstone in, was the month and birthstone in play at that point? Is that why they cut the 13th? Because they decided that they for some reason the puzzle needed this theme of the birthstone, the flower, the
Yeah.
month objects, like
Who knows? It did get shut. It got shut down to 12 really
yeah,
quickly, and
yeah.
everything in the like, it's weird because everything in the paperwork is very 12 specific, like 12 of these things. So
I don't mind
maybe
that for
that's,
late 81. I like that it was 12,
yeah.
like at that point, because if you get into 82 and there's 13, you're like, God, I have no idea. I don't know.
I'm wondering if, like, because it, from what John Palancar has said in interviews, the clues added to the paintings was a very fluid thing. It was very like,
Right.
Byron would call me and we would talk and we would talk and we would add this and yada yada yada. And I'm wondering if the creation of the words of the puzzle was the same way. Like, he started out with this and he was like, maybe we'll hide 13, maybe we'll hide whatever. And then he was like, oh, you know what would be great is if we integrated months, like a month theme.
Yeah.
And then we cut them back down to 12. And oh, you know what would be great is if we added immigration and, all of these different things to just sort of add to the puzzle and add to the story a little bit.
Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, you do have to fill out, even though it's like 20 something pages in the front, you do have to give it an origin story, if instead of just leading with here's 12 verses
Yeah.
and 12 paintings and then the rest of the book, So but this blew my mind. I can't believe that the dragons weren't pearl. And the dragon was dragon green pranked with ancient stars. What? No, that blows my, because Chase perfect as the silver moon was the perfect clue for the spot in San Francisco that I love, that Chris Woodward, he talks about it all the time. It's just like, I don't know what to think now. Thanks.
Yeah. It's really confusing. I'm sorry. Like, the rest of it's not going to help anymore. Like, I feel like after that meetup, when this PDF comes out, it's either going to be a bunch of people going, well, this shit doesn't matter at all, or it's going to be people who are shoehorning the whole damn thing into whatever they already think. Like, it's one of those two things is going to happen.
But that's just styles. They bring that style into it though, right? It's either you look at it and you go, oh, well, this busts up some stuff for me, or you're like, yeah, you can't get more perfect than this.
Yeah, but I feel like whole cloth. Like, it's either,
yeah.
I mean, it's going to divide people into two camps where facts are either important or they're not.
Yeah, but you gotta. I mean, it's a hobby, so just
yes, have fun.
Groups. Always gonna say separate groups. I know, not that you have to run. I mean, you could run it if you want, but not that you have to add more to your plate. But I've always thought more groups, separate groups would be good.
Oh, I hate the idea of separate groups, except for cities. Like, I think cities should have their own separate groups, but it just gets too hard to carry on a conversation because people start talking about shit in somewhere else, and then they reference it. You don't think it'd
be easier for styles, kind of just the way you look at the hunt? Like, if you're a one-to-one kind of person, you get a group of one-to-ones. I don't know. I think it would be easier.
Well, so I mean, the thing about it is, like, people tend to people tend to get mad at one group, so they start another group, and then people join that group, and then somebody gets mad at that group and then starts another group, and then people start join that group, and it's just an endless cycle. I think people should play nicely and use hashtags, and then they could use like 10 groups effectively. But I don't know. Somebody asked if there's anything in here that's changed my opinion. No. Because I've always thought the puzzle was badly made and rushed. And it seems badly made and rushed.
This one was kind of dark. This version of
it was super dark.
Man, I was like, what's with all the blood? It's like a field of blood. You're just like, dude, okay. But yeah. And garnet clear as a crimson pomegranate. What the heck is clear about a pomegranate? Somebody wrote on the page, he planted it at the base of a pomegranate tree. I loved that. I was like, that's good.
Somebody asked if we're ever going to get to see the JJP interview. I think I'm just going to like call him and be like, look, it's been a couple of months and I got access to I don't think he's forgot. I think there's something he doesn't want to talk about, but I'm not sure. I'm just going to be, because I've got access to a movie theater at this meetup, and I'm probably just I emailed James Renner and asked if I could show his documentary, and he was like, no. And then he emailed me back and he's like, somebody told me on a live stream you said you were going to do it anyway, and I don't want you to. I was like, I didn't say that anyway.
Like, no one cares about it's old.
It's just like there's somebody out there that's trying to cause problems. Like I've got, like, for this meetup, I got a cease and desist from the city of St. Augustine. Did I tell you that? Or did I tell any? Yeah, somebody reported the city of St. Augustine saying that I was getting a group of hunters together and we were going to go through and tear through the city. And I had to call the lawyer back and I was like, it's the city's event. What are you doing?
That's awesome. You're like, I have it on their letterhead. Like,
right? Like what? I don't know. There's somebody out there every time we do something that tries to cause problems. I don't know who it is. But yeah. But anyway, I'm probably just going to email John and be like, look, I've never seen myself on a movie theater screen. Like, I've always wanted to be on the silver screen.
Please.
It's been months. It's time to release this thing. Like, I get that we give people...
Rachel and the kids.
Yeah. I get that we give guests control over their content, like on the podcast.
Yeah.
I've always thought that was really fair. Like, I don't want to put shit out that you don't want put out. But it's been like 3 months. You've had enough time.
And he said what he said at this point,
Yeah. We've already talked about like 75% of the shit in the interview. It doesn't matter. Let's put it out now. Put a lot of work into that.
Yeah, no, that would be amazing. That would be like really amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hoping, like, if I can do that, I'll set it as an instant premiere on YouTube for the same time. That way everybody can watch it all at once.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be. Yeah.
So anyway.
So what else we got? What's the next thing you're going to show us, George? You can premiere it here.
Premiere here? Well, I did ask the question, like, if people thought that about the back of the book, if it was just like, if it was Byron adding clues. Didn't you say you thought he added it to the descriptions?
No, I didn't vote because I read
somebody said that.
He was like, I'm gonna wait. You already.
Yeah.
They were like, what's it gonna change? And I'm like, I'm still waiting.
So, like, within this, I just like split my pages into thirds. Anyway, within this, we have draft copies
of the back of the book.
Yeah.
Oh.
We have both draft copies, not of everything, but most things. Sure. Draft copies and then 4 copies, right? So we have what was sent to Byron that Byron edited, and the final edit that goes to the printer, right? So we know the differences between what Sean and Ted sent and what was in the book.
Oh man, that's crazy. Okay, that will be really interesting. Yeah, that would be really interesting. That'll take a while to pour through, though. Like,
I mean, it's It's not
next.
a lot. There's
Yeah.
probably only like, so what's in the manuscript that can be released was a whole bunch of fair folk, just a whole bunch of them, and then like generally at least 2 copies of each one, like a draft and a foreprint.
Okay.
And then the Passages in the New World, which has a completely different title, and the Litany.
Ooh,
and then just some random stuff like some little sketches that I'm told don't mean anything.
Ooh,
So
put those
yeah,
out since they don't mean anything. Just go ahead and post those.
yeah.
I
There's
love
a couple.
those.
There's one that was like intrigued the shit out of me. Where is it? It looks like a display.
Oh, like promotional stuff, or
It kind of looks like a booth. It's weird.
oh,
Don't tell
yeah,
me
maybe like
I
a
put
book
it down somewhere and I can't
convention
find it
kind of
now.
thing.
I've got so many papers. I keep thinking I'm gonna like spill a drink on all of these. Yeah, I don't see it, but it's a really cool sketch. It looks like a booth. And then there's one which like has paint on the back of it. At least I hope it's paint, because if it's blood, then that would freak me out. Let me see if I can find that one.
And tears went into this thing.
But I don't know. This is like
DNA.
this is
You could have it DNA for
yeah.
all the hardcores out there.
Yeah, here it is. Like it's just
Oh God,
yeah, like I hope it's paint.
that is.
You can't really tell.
Maybe I don't know what that would be. I was gonna say red toner, red ink, but they didn't have prints. You know, it would have been like just the ribbon.
Yeah, it's either somebody like cut their hand and then they're just spreading, like trying to wipe the blood off, or they got red paint on their brush and they're just like, ugh.
Yeah, surely, hopefully.
Secret Con in St. Augustine is when? September 10th
Whoa,
at 11
new name.
in downtown. Hey, that guy Aldar Book who never contributes anything to the Facebook group is back claiming I'm insider trading. Drama people. Fuck those guys.
Insider trading.
Yes,
like,
it's because I have all this stuff here that is coming out.
Insider trading. Like, okay, so the stock market. Well, you'd have to be able to go.
I have to make some money first.
Yeah.
we got buttons too. Those came in. Those were cool. Did you get to see those?
What?
The buttons? Because
No,
I do buttons.
buttons.
Yeah. Where did they go? Oh, here they are. So that's one. That's hard to see.
That's cool. No, I like it. Yeah, I can
And
see it.
then
That's a good design.
I took that signature.
Yeah.
I can't see that.
I can't. Oh, there you go. Yeah, download. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So new buttons.
Very cool. If you send me some, I'll do an unboxing like Linda.
All right. Yeah, I'll suggest it. Have you
funny.
told us where it came from already? I missed it. The manuscript? It came from a bunch of different places. Some of it came from Joelle, and some of it came from a bunch of different places. And I missed Ron Jenkins' top. One guy in the comments just asked me if his question was too off topic or if he just missed it, or if I missed it.
Oh, dang, Ron. Say it again.
I can go back on and look.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, George. I'm going hunting soon, and if I can find a cask, I want to keep the details on the find private for a bit, but I want to be able to confirm the cask is real. Who should I contact?
George.
I mean, if you find a cask, just post pictures.
Yeah. Make
Like, you don't have to tell anybody where it came from.
fake
I mean,
internet thing.
Ultimately, you will have to tell people. You will
Yeah.
have to tell a couple of people where it came from.
Yeah.
But if you find one, just post pictures.
Ron,
Nobody's
we
gonna.
talked about this.
Everybody's gonna say it's a fake. Everybody in the world will say it's a fake until you get it verified a little bit. But in all honesty, if you post pictures of it, I'll get people to reach out to you.
No, we've talked about this on the Facebook before. The really good, like, I think the plan people came up with was like, do it anonymously, like just send it, to like the right people, like yours truly, to get it verified. And then you you say, hey, details will be coming out in a couple of weeks or whatever, 4 weeks, whatever, just to kind of let the heat die down if there's anything, if the authorities are interested or not, and then you can do it. You can release it as a theory, and then
Well,
there's
it doesn't seem like he's he's worried about getting in trouble.
oh
It seems like he just doesn't want to let people know, which is fine.
no, it sounded like he just to me because he said he wanted to keep it private for a little bit. That means
yeah,
waiting to see if the heat goes, if
So
the authorities are interested or not, because then I think if you don't wave it in their face, they'd be like, if you're not like, I broke the law. Oh dang it, where did I go?
Sunday went away.
My
Idea, I had an idea a long time ago for if I found a cast, was keeping where I found it hidden for a little bit too, but it was so I could post a picture of it and say, this has been confirmed, you tell me where you think I found it, and that'll get rid of all of the people who are going to be like, you stole my information, or I gave this to you, or what, you had your chance.
Oh yeah, because then they would have to, because if it's your spot, you're going to recognize it immediately, right? Like in a picture, like a close-up. Oh, like the Polaroid picture that BP took of like the tight close-in of the spot. You would notice it, recognize it immediately. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Like, with as many people that message me and as little as I remember about them, I always, in the back of my head, I'm always like, if I, back when I was digging, if I ever find one of these, the first thing somebody's going to say is like, I sent you that solve in a message or whatever. So I'll just be like, here's St. Augustine. Tell me where you think it is.
Yeah.
And, let the chips fall where they
That'd
may.
be a good idea. Yeah, that would be a good idea. You always have to, like,
Where are we drinking Friday night in St. Augustine? Hey, Sunday, you should come to St. Augustine.
I want to. My hub's having surgery.
Is it a bad surgery?
Well, it's open heart, like the whole.
So he'll be asleep. He'll be asleep for a while. It's a 30-minute flight.
It's right. I know.
That's really that
he's
sucks.
Not having it for a couple of days, so surely I'd be back home. For like.
Yeah, and so the doctors are going to tell him that he needs rest. So that's his chance to just lay in bed and do nothing.
It's true. No, I'll be here with him, but I will be. I wish I could go. That would be so freaking fun. So fun. I need to try to hurry up and finish up that game Rachel and I were talking about, so you guys can play it while like people are just hanging out. It was the Family Feud, the secret edition.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yes. Put in the comments, guys, if you would be kind enough to do a survey. It's only like 9 silly questions or whatever. And then if we could get enough people to, how they do the survey says, we asked 100 people, then we can send it and you guys can play it like, when they're just hanging out like at the bar afterwards or whatever.
Destiny found this cool app online where you can submit trivia questions and answers. Yeah. So she made a bunch about the secret, but the kick is it's trivia and answer questions about the secret from someone who knows nothing about the secret.
Oh my gosh. So I should message her. We should hang out and I could give her all those old questions from that game that I tried to do a long time ago. Yeah.
Like she really wants me to do it on a Sunday Funday one day. And it's interactive. Like you just go to the website. Yes. Like people in the comments could go. It sounded like a lot of fun, but I don't think she ever finished.
Oh, will you have her send me the name of the app? Yeah. Sure. Maybe we could do that Family Feud thing on that app so that no one has to like add them up or whatever, Yeah. Yeah.
It sounded fun. It sounded like a lot of fun because she read me some and I was like, but that's wrong. And she's like, I don't know anything. Yeah.
Yeah. You should,
anyway,
you should be able to do like a million pieces of trivia about the secret, but it's like, no one's got the same answer.
Somebody asked where we were drinking Friday night. There's so many people coming down for this meetup that I have no idea what anyone's plans are. I know like after the meetup that Saturday evening I have plans, but if someone makes a plan, I will show up. Like that's kind of the way it.
Big. Okay, well, names a couple of big places, like big bars or big restaurants that have a bar. Yeah, that maybe Friday? Have a room.
I don't want to keep you guys out of downtown.
Maybe it's not. Is it busy? Is it back to busy again? A hotel bar?
There's a bunch of hotel bars. There's a place. I don't know if the Collective would let everybody in. The Collective's really nice. Yeah, there's a Renaissance that's down by Ripley's that would probably work. I don't know. There's a lot of bars. Somebody just pick a place and I'll show up. Doesn't matter. Who cares? It's always busy anyway.
If somebody's at the Renaissance, then if they have a rented room, if they've rented a room, they might be able to just say, "Hey, can we get a
meeting room?
Like a room? Yeah, we want to have a cocktail party. Can we? Yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm down. Lobby. I'm down for anything. I don't know when people are showing up, so I'm down for anything. Just put it on the group or put it in the event page, and people will come.
If you're the first one, everyone's going.
Yeah. If you're the first one to post where you want to go, you're the popular kid, and we all want to come hang out with you.
Yeah, where's James? I thought James said he was going to try to join.
James Watson?
Yeah,
I can send him a link.
Read his timeline fully yet, but
I'll send him a link. That's fine.
Yeah, he's another Houston kid.
Like I sent one to Chris. I don't even think he's seen it yet. So let me see. Copy the invite link here. I mean, anybody can come in if they just ask in the comments. I don't care. I sent it to James.
Awesome.
James literally just made a comment that said, "I am online," and then Tim immediately made another comment that said he is online.
Hey, Tim. Oh, we're in the squirrel group. Hey, James is coming for the Incredible Hunt. Eve and Simon won that on the podcast or on the live stream. They invited us to be in a group, me and Tim and Jim.
Oh,
James's name is Debbie, and he likes camping.
Yeah, that's my wife's.
It's all right, James. It's 2022. You're fine. You can be Debbie.
It's all right, James. It's 2022.
Oh, there's a bit of an echo, but that's all right.
Let me see what I can do.
Oh, you still got Facebook or the stream open?
That's all right.
Let me see what I can do.
Oh, you still got Facebook or the.
I think you just have to pause the stream, James. Like on Facebook in the background.
I'm going to cut my audio for a second. I'm going to get the comments.
James left.
Did I?
And now I've lost Sunday's audio.
No, I'm back.
You cut the audio. Yeah. Sorry.
I was going to see if I could. When James came on and was watching the stream, I thought, I could do that and just mute it and then read the comments. But then,
no, you can't. You totally can't. Because
talk, I don't want to.
My bad thing is that's why. If you watch the replay, the comments are on the screen, and I had to it was a big pain in the ass to set that up. I had to basically write a program to make that happen. And it's because when I'm doing this, I'm focused on you, and I completely ignore what's going on in the comment section.
Yeah.
Any idea how much an Uber ride is from Jacksonville to St. Augustine? Lots and lots of money. If you want to
St. Augustine.
if you're gonna Uber from Jacksonville to St. Augustine, just let me know and I will come pick you up. That would be a couple $100. It would be a crazy, especially because the airport's on the other side of Jacksonville, and I have to go to Jacksonville anyway to pick somebody up. So you just let me know.
Carpool.
Yeah, you let me know, and I'll pick you up too.
You just let me know.
Carpool.
Yep, still echo.
All right.
Hey James, are you watching the stream on another tab?
No, I don't.
Hey James, are you watching the stream
Let me see.
on another tab?
Let me see.
You almost have to be.
Let me see. Let me see.
You almost have to be.
Let me see.
It's okay though. What time are you picking them up? It doesn't matter, Tim. You just come in. We'll hang out in Jacksonville and we'll wait on you.
There we go.
Nice.
Oh, is it going to be Tim? Oh, that'll be a fun trip. That'll be a really fun trip.
It would be a lot of fun to have Tim here. There was a New York contract law question I had for Tim a long time ago. It'd be nice to ask him what the answer is.
All right. So I'm headed to St. Augustine. I'll be there Thursday night.
Oh, nice. Sweet.
Yeah. So I'm planning on hitting FOY in St. Marcos Friday if I can. And then I'm going to be up for whatever I can get in with anybody who's available while I'm there.
That's what I really wish somebody would like, I really wish people who are coming would go onto either the event page or like the main group and just post, hey, I'm doing this at this time, because there are a shitload of people who want to get together and hang out, but all of them are like, I guess maybe too shy or don't think anybody wants to come hang out with them. So they don't make posts. Where if they would just make a post, it would be like and it's hard to explain how much fun it is for a bunch of people who are obsessed about the exact same thing to get together.
I'll make a group. We'll make a group, and then you guys can post on the group.
We're doing another group.
I'm bound and determined. I'm gonna get another group out of this. No, I'll make a group, and then you guys can talk in that group, make plans, and then I'll see all the fun.
Just name it Sunday's Fun Day.
Well, I don't get to go, so it'll just be all the fun. Sunday is missing.
But I'm hoping Destiny
Yes,
said
for
she'd
another group.
Destiny
Now
said
I
she'd came along. Destiny said she'd come along and live stream as much as we want. So like if we get together and just hang out at bars and stuff, we can live stream that too. We can live stream whatever.
Oh,
You can
somebody
live stream
please
me
call
drinking
me.
margaritas.
yes.
Oh,
Call
yeah.
me, just prop me up on your, I'll just be somebody's phone on the table. That would be so fun.
Oh, we'll do it. We'll do it.
It's gonna be fun. James, where are you coming in from?
Houston.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Sunday and I, we keep missing each other out at the park. I mean, she'll see my posts, I'll see hers, so we never get a chance to meet up out there. But no, I'm flying in Thursday. Gonna stay at the Via 1565.
A lot of secret people are staying there. You guys are gonna have a party because it's like right across the street from the Fountain of Youth.
Oh yeah.
It's a nice place, and
Yeah,
everybody
I
wants
would-
to dig back there for some reason.
That'll be so fun.
Yeah, that's gonna be. And what's great about the Villa is, so as soon as you check in, they send you to the rooms, and the rooms are like in this aisle, and right in the middle of them is the old senator, and they bricked off the old senator, and they put this really nice seating area with lights and all kinds of stuff, and there's like a liquor store and a bar right next to it, so
Cool.
everybody that's at the Villa can just hang out by the old senator like all night. It's so much fun.
Okay, so you guys, if you're bringing, pro tip, if you're staying at the Villa, bring your folding chair. And your
Yeah, well, I mean, there's seating there, but yeah, bring them.
But I'll have to hit the Kmart or something, and just buy that there because I don't want to carry it on.
Oh, sure.
You guys have Kmart in Houston?
Oh, not anymore. No.
Oh,
No. It just I aged myself. Okay.
James is like, I'm gonna have to go to the Western Auto and buy the pomade.
We still have Western Auto
Do
in
you?
my
I
hometown.
haven't seen a Western Auto in so long.
Yep.
Or like in Anderson, in South Carolina, where I grew up, we had a Piggly Wiggly, and like I find them rarely. Cole May is obsessed with the Piggly Wiggly. He wants a Piggly
Could
Wiggly.
you not be?
t-shirt.
Come on now.
Well, so dating, I worked at an Otasco, if you know what that is. Oklahoma Tire and Supply.
So a long time ago, I don't know how true this is, but it's a random bit of knowledge that I've never been able to shake from my head. That I know what the K in Kmart stands for, and it's Kessler's.
Kessler's. Okay.
It was like that might not be true now that I think about it. It might just be like you get random bit of knowledge in your head and you can't get it out. But there was this place called Kessler's, and it was Kessler Mart, and I guess it was like bought out or something and shortened to Kmart.
There you go.
Okay.
What about
Yeah.
TG&Y? Do you remember TG&Y? Did y'all
Boys,
have
games,
those?
and yo-yos.
I was gonna see if you knew what those were. I don't.
Mm-mm.
Boys, games, and yo-yos.
Toys, games,
Is that-
and yo-yos.
Is that what y'all called it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that the Mason Lodge we're all meeting in used to be an IGA. It was a grocery store.
Oh,
So
okay.
like when we were negotiating all of these, because I had to go back to the Mason Lodge this past week, and I was like, hey, when I talked to you guys, we were talking about like 30 people, and now we're up to like 70 or 100 people. Is that going to be okay? And they were like, yeah, sure, whatever, fine. But we were talking about, I used to live like a block away from it, and I was like, this used to be an IGA. It used to be a grocery store. Like I'm standing in the frozen food aisle, and they were like, yeah.
Do they still have the big
Anyway.
walk-in coolers? They're just rooms now, insulated rooms with Soundproof rooms for the Masons Lodge.
So I think I speak for everybody that's coming, George, is that, thank you, first off, for putting this whole thing together.
I mean, I haven't done much, so thank you guys for coming.
And the insider's trick is I joined the St. Augustine Historical Society, so I got free tickets to go into the oldest building.
Oh, nice. If you're a local, you get in free, which is
It's
nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Oh, look, it's Chris.
Hey.
Oh, we have to have intellectual
Hey.
conversation now.
Yes, back
The
to the
sleeves
secret
have
now.
come
back
off.
to the litany.
So I messaged the oldest house today,
For whatever.
and I told them how many people were expecting. And I gave them kind of a layout that we would probably send it people over there at about 1:00. But I'm going to try to make it like a trickle instead of a bum rush, because I don't know if you've ever been in the oldest house, but it's the size of an old house. It's not big.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully the way they're laying it out, people will be able to mingle.
Hey, Chris, I'm dying to hear what you think about this new draft of the litany.
All attention is focused on Chris now. Please give us the answer, oh smart man.
No pressure.
So there was something that was brought up before that I kind of want to get your opinion on, right? The things that immediately stand out to me in this new litany that's missing is the tide of the month doesn't seem like that big of a deal in this one, right? We've got a little bit of immigration, and we have some kind of birthstones, like they are birthstones kind of, and some of the months are repeated, but it doesn't hit as hard on birth months as the current litany. So we were discussing whether or not the birth month aspect of the puzzle could have been an afterthought, not an afterthought, but like a working, you know how the paintings that John and Byron just sort of work together to come up with new things to add to the paintings. If the puzzle worked the same way, like over time, Byron started doing all these things and he was like, these are all birthstones. Oh shit, maybe we could have like a birth month integration. And then he was like, well, these aren't, immediately recognizable birthstones. We should change them to the more recognizable birthstones and yada, yada, yada. And it went from there.
Well, the one thing that I don't know if we know this, but I don't think we know this. How many people he may have spitballed a certain idea against in his sort of building the puzzle. So like in programming, we call it like someone being your rubber duck, and you can just like, you talk at them and they just listen, and over time, they might like give you some prodding questions, and maybe there was an external person that he was like, hey, look at this great puzzle idea I have. And they're like, yo, but 2 of those stones are the same birth month. Like, what's up with that? And you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So like there's still so much speculation about it that it's really hard to make any kind of like determination about like what he did or did not do or how he did this. It's like you kind of really have to just look at it as it was here and then it was here, and try to see. I've seen a lot of people sort of posting like, these are the things that stayed the same. Like, it's interesting that Chicago is the only one that was actually not changed at all.
Right.
Nothing changed, and then some of them, like the pearl, went from Greece to Cathay. Like, what's up with that? But then Cathay had lapis lazuli, which if you look into that at all, I took as a very positive affirmation of what I believe, right? So it's like it's easy to draw your own conclusions that still like serve your own ends.
That's kind of a trap with this, because it's not, no one was ever supposed to see this. So why would you even take it as a clue? Or like it's a pitfall. If you use this for any sort of information, of any sort of clue, you're working off of an old puzzle. You're basically probably shooting yourself in the foot automatically.
The only value I see to documents that are before the final edition is just to see the evolution of the thought process of putting
Mhm.
this thing together.
Yeah.
And you can see where they made, you know, decisions, and they've had turning points, and getting to where the book finally was at the final edition.
Yeah.
That is the
And
real value in this.
and that was my goal with it. There's so few facts that in The Secret that it's good to introduce some, even if they're not related to the hunt itself. It's good to introduce context. How, like, what was the time frame this puzzle was put together? What was the time frame these things were buried? What was the time frame of X, Y, and Z? The context narrows down the puzzle aspect of this book more than anything, I think. I don't know, though.
Yeah.
No, I
In
agree
fact,
with both of those.
there was something that Arthur shared with me today, that was, you know, because of the posting of the timeline information, that to me was an eye opener, because it talks about, and I had been looking through all the newspaper articles for something about the 1982 American Booksellers Convention, and I had not been able to find anything. And then Arthur shared it with me today, and then I confirmed it's the San Francisco Chronicle. They did it on May 29th, and at that convention, he previewed the book to the convention. So it had to have been mostly completed at that time.
The Chi-Con
No. The
Oh.
one that's in Anaheim in 1982.
in Anaheim.
Anaheim.
Yes, 1982. So the one that he met Sandy was 1980, June 1980, and that's where he met Sandy
That was Chicago's
That was
American
Chicago.
Booksellers. Okay.
at the McCormick Center.
Yeah.
In 1982, before the book came out, he previewed. There's an article that Arthur shared. I dredged up what newspaper and what date it was. I already had the information on the convention itself, but they interviewed him. The San Francisco Chronicle did. They said this is a scoop. Nobody else carried the story, and so one newspaper had it. And as you read through it, they talk about the fair folk. They talk about the 12 paintings. They talk about the 12 verses. They use the phrase "a tale of 12 treasures," but they also use the phrase "the secret." If they previewed the book, not a final copy, mind you, but anything that was close to final, that also means the book was more complete back in May, June than what we may have thought.
Yeah.
Again, that's speculation on my part. But how do you preview something that's not somewhat complete?
Now I'm wondering when the Chi-Con convention was. What the date of the Chi? Because he had a big portion of the book at the Chi-Con convention. He also had art, like dolls and sketches.
Okay.
Okay.
Something different
hang
than the Chicago thing, the
Hang on,
June
I'll
of
get the
1980 thing. Gotcha.
There's some convention where he has his first date with Sandy and then runs off to bury a cask. Now, if we believe that was 1980, then that is
So,
Yeah,
Chris, when you
impossible.
watch the video
with the
at the 39-second
cast.
mark, I'm sorry, Sunday, at the 39-second mark, there's a video edit right there.
Yeah, there's a cut.
And I think now that there's a discontinuity in when and where she's talking about. So
Yeah.
what we do know is she talks about when they met at a convention, which we know is Chicago. And then we know that she's talking about him showing up to bury a cask.
Yeah.
But we don't know where or when.
So the one that I was talking about was in September. I got the ad for it.
Okay.
That was in
Of
September.
82?
Yeah. Yeah. And what makes what James is saying about that interview even more frustrating is she had an office in both New York and San Francisco. So it's like, where the fuck is she talking about here?
No. Okay.
and she could have been at any convention.
Right.
Could have been
She's
at any.
publishing herself
Yeah.
as
So
well,
she had an
right?
office in New York, but she was living in San Francisco. I found a public notification of, and unfortunately, Sandy's moving from San Francisco to New York. This was in 1983. So we know that she didn't leave San Francisco until 83, but she
Yeah.
did have an office in New York. You're right.
Spent a lot of time at Byron's house, from what I understand. They were working on puzzles together. I don't know. I like this timeline that you're doing. I love it. I love it. Yep.
Absolutely love it.
100% added to the wiki, which is
No,
coming along
absolutely.
nicely.
And I'll keep my speculation off to the
Well,
side.
I think the speculation is good. Like that
Yeah.
PDF is really good. Not so good for a wiki, but like that PDF itself, like it's easy to make judgments based on some of these dates. But the tricky thing is when you're putting it in a factual context, if one of them are wrong, you basically
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
you nullify
So-
every one of your ideas.
And it's really easy for us to say, like, these are the facts, and then here is a separate page that is a commentary on
Yeah.
the facts, which is speculation based, but
So,
may
so
have
just a quickie. So I'm an engineer. We do what we call basis of design. We say, this is the facts. These are all of assumptions. So it's something that I do every day in work is make that separation. In the PDF that I provided, since it was my document, I didn't do
Yeah.
that quite so much.
no need to.
But
Sorry, I had to make a change. But yeah, like I love all of this stuff. I love the context of this thing.
But it was interesting to me that if the dates may still be in question, but like if Chicago is the one that did not change from like litany of the draft to litany of the final, like that would imply that the emerald puzzle did not change from that draft time to publish time, as opposed to literally every other one that did change.
Well, we know that John said Castle Hat was the first one made, likely the first one buried as well.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't the first one buried, it was the first. If it was the first painting completed, it was the first one whose clues were in concrete, right?
Mhm.
Like, because the painting's done, you can't change anything now.
Yep.
So
I mean,
Well,
you can,
but they did with New York. Remember they changed New York.
and with Boston, they painted over that little gemmy thing with the castle.
that's true.
Oh no, wait, they didn't. Remember in your interview with JJP that you put out about the promo poster, that didn't he say that was Alex J's airbrushing?
He thought it was,
over-
but Alex, I told him
Oh,
in the same interview, I was like, no, I talked to Alex. Alex has no idea. So what
Oh.
John came back with the advertising thing, because he just didn't remember that it was,
well, 40 years.
he said it was his painting. Some stuff was airbrushed out, but things like the box, that was his, they hadn't designed the box yet, so they didn't know what it was going to be. So he just painted a gem on it. And then later on painted a castle on it that didn't matter. But yeah, it wasn't Alex that did that. It was somebody at Bantam did the airbrushing.
Okay.
So I'm going to segue into something that's aligned with the casks being made. I watched the video in which Joellen talks about the process for making the casks. And then she talks about Byron taking that prototype and handing it to an architectural sculpture firm.
Mhm.
So in the book, it names that firm.
Yeah.
So we know who made those casks.
Yeah. They're no longer in business. We've tracked them down. But yeah.
But
And
from
you
from your contract that you shared, and so she signed the contract June 26, 1981. There was at least one of the references that we found that talks about the talent working on speculation for a year before Bantam bought the book. So do we consider that to be the time before her contract signing? So could that put it into the June 1980 timeframe?
You're not going to get an artist, even an inexperienced artist, to work on spec without a contract. You're going to have a contract. Something in place where you're going to get X amount of money, no matter if this book's published or not. Like, I don't know anybody that would, I don't know.
Unless
But
you're friends.
Yeah, unless you're really close friends. Joellen has said point blank in one of her interviews, I can't remember which one, it was one of them with me. Because I asked her about the Byron burying a cask in 1980. It was back when we thought he buried it in San Francisco when he met Sandy, right? And she was like, no, I didn't start working on it until 81. I was like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, 1981 was when I started working on it. So if she was involved, that started in 81.
Agreed.
John being involved, I don't know. Let me grab something real quick. Like, when was Distant Stars put out?
I can tell you real quick.
Distant Stars was also put out in 1981. But this book is where John Palancar met Byron. Like, they worked on this when they met. Yeah. And there was a decent period of time in between John working on this book and John working on The Secret. So they couldn't have been working together on The Secret, I assume, in 1980 if the book they were working on prior to The Secret wasn't put out until 81.
Well, you had Dragon World came out in July of 1980, or not, excuse me, before that. That was quite a bit before. The Dinosaurs coming out in 81.
Yeah, and that was with William Stout.
Yep. So he had quite a bit going on, but he had a 12-month gap in there where I haven't found anything in the press with his name, with any of his publications. So it could be that all that gap he was working on Distant Stars and the Dinosaurs, could he have also been working on this? I don't know. I mean, there's no way to know.
Yeah. I don't know. But I mean, what we can know is Joe Ellen wasn't working on it. So there was no cask and there was no key. John Palancar, I don't know, judging the dates of these paintings, like so many of them being made in 81 and then so many of them being made in 82, like the speed he would have had to have worked on them. I can't see him having 2 years and still using that amount of speed. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
John Perard could have been working on it for 20 years. Like, they shared an office, I think. I don't know. This is why I think it's important for that timeline. Yeah. Because like, we're just spitballing shit, but if you could sit and look at all of the dates, the story kind of starts to tell itself.
Yeah, because the other things it talks about front money from the publisher. And so with that front money, did they pay some of these people to work on it before it was sold? You know, there's a lot of things that we can speculate, but... Well,
front money is just an advance.
Absolutely.
And they didn't make their advance in sales. So, like, we know that from John.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me see if I can give you some more dates here. So there was a rider to their contract in July.
Like brown M&Ms.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. It's actually like, I'm screwing you over with money. It's basically like, I can use your art for other stuff and not pay you for it. Yeah. Like I'd never believed, like, I'll get all James, I'll get all of these dates for you and I'll send them all to you. I'll send you exactly what they are. I could not believe, because everybody that I spoke to about Byron was like, he was a great guy, shitty to work with. Like, and he loved his money and didn't want you to have, like, John Palancar was like, the last project I ever worked on Byron was The Secret. And he was like, and that was for a reason. And reading these contracts, I'm like, oh shit, I would not want to work with this dude. Like, they did not get paid much and they did not have many rights to their art. But anyway, I'll get you the dates, James, and then we can fill that in more and we'll know a little bit more about the process.
That sounds like a plan. Good deal.
Because the dates with JJP and the dates with Joe Allen are super important, because those do give us boundaries on when things could have happened. But there's no boundary on like when Byron like came up with the harebrained idea of one day maybe it would be fun to do a 12 treasure hunt based on birthstones. Like, he could have come up with that when he was 18 and just like,
that's true,
sat on it for 20 years or whatever until he was in a position to be like, oh, I can make money off this.
Yeah.
Part of the list of questions I submitted for John to answer, which I'm sure they were all the ones he said, no, I'm not going to answer that, was Do you remember when you started painting? When did you finish painting? Do you remember the sequence?
Yeah, he didn't answer any of those.
No.
Why is somebody yelling "angry person chill out" in the comments? Who is angry?
Uh-oh.
Somebody angry?
Evie's like, who's so angry?
Everybody's
Uh-oh.
angry. Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah. I gotta get that interview just released because screw it. It's been too long. I don't
Now
know
you're
who's
getting
angry.
hearts.
Now I'm getting hearts.
Now the hearts are flying. I don't know if you
That's
see it,
very
but you know
sweet.
how they
'Cause he
fly
said,
up
I love the
the,
hearts.
the
Got to
side.
get that interview out.
Oh
People are
yeah,
like,
that's
yes,
probably
yes.
yes. It's not that good. It's just I put a lot of work into it. I think people are gonna see it and be like, "We waited this long for this." Oh well.
Well, but your little promo in your car, sold it quite well, George.
Oh, it definitely changed the secret for me. It won't necessarily change the secret for you. That was crazy because I recorded that like as soon as I left. And I was like, I just came back from John Palancar's house and I'm high now.
That would
Actually,
be
no, I
quite,
think it was like the morning or the day after or something. It was crazy though.
that would be quite something. So like you said, I love that part where he said the story of when you walked into his workshop and all the paintings are there, and then you're like, I need a minute. And he's like, what's wrong? Oh, I forgot you haven't seen these.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I haven't seen them.
Yeah. Just to be able to look at them. Because I started looking at like all the shit that people are like focused on, right? Like the locust. I'm just using this as an example, not this specific thing, but like the locust in Milwaukee, right? Things that
Yeah.
don't necessarily look correct, but people are like, this is this. And I just looking at all this stuff going, these are just brush strokes. Like this is nothing. This is just reflections on the whatever he put over it to make the painting shiny.
So
It
when
was
you're
it was a
standing
little nuts.
for that
I mean-
particular example, when you're standing there, it doesn't stand out as much as it does in the photo. Like you're like, okay.
You know what's weird
know?
is you can see more in the scans that are on 12 Treasures of the St. Augustine painting than you can in that painting. So much more because
like-
because of the glare.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so glossy.
Mm,
You can see more in the scans than you can on that.
that is
Well, I'm a big fan of the KISS principle. There are certain things that we're supposed to be chasing after, and then there's other things that are noise or whatever word you want to use for it. And I'm probably going to get some of those angry faces now with my comment, but I just think that we're making it too hard in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
I like the KISS. I know it's going to surprise people for me to say that, but I'd say it to myself. There for a while, I don't say it to other people. I say it to a couple other people. Like I would say it to some of my friends. Say it to Chris. Like keep it simple, man. But no, like I think, yeah, you have to pick and choose. If you know somebody well enough to say it, and I use it like it's a mantra, but yeah. So, KISS.
Yeah, well, there's the two versions. There's the nice one that says keep it simple, silly.
Keep it
And then there's
smartly
one a little more
simple.
blunt, keep it simple, stupid. If you really want to be blunt, then take the second one. But
I like keep it stupid simple.
That's good. Yeah. But no,
Chris,
I am a
you're
big
quiet
fan of
today.
The one-to-one. Yeah, Chris, come on. You came late. We've all had
There's
our
also
turns
no
off
guitars
too.
in the background. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I'm downstairs today. I'm not in my office. So that's where all the guitars are. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just following wherever the conversation goes. You want me to strike something up? We can.
Dive into
I've never
the
seen
litany.
Chris. I've never seen Chris speechless before.
know,
That
'cause
means
when
this
I-
conversation is either really, really dumb or
So I love the timeline stuff. I'm really into it. It
I
kind
do
of like
too.
it gets rid of some of the ad hominem stuff, which is what does drive me nuts. Like, if you're going to get a snarky comment from me, it's because someone was like, well, Byron would never do that. And I'm like, you don't know this.
Yeah.
Well, what drove me to even think about this is I'm in Houston and I'm dealing with that. And there's a particular thing in the Houston puzzle that I really like, but it was gone by the time the book came out. So the timeline was real important for that particular element. And does it work?
Oh, the
Probably
intro.
not. But if
Yeah.
he made reconnaissance trips, and that's the part that we'll never know. If he made any reconnaissance trips while some of these changes, whether in Houston or Cleveland or wherever it may be, and then when he went back to bury it, those changes had taken place. He's not looking for the changes. He's going to where he had picked to bury this thing, put it in the ground, and leave. You look at Liberty Avenue. It changed names in 81. If he gets there and the sign doesn't say Liberty, does he know to tell John to put the L in there or put the Dobo helmet?
Did it change names in 81? Because John
Yes,
said it
it
changed
did.
names a couple of years after the book came out.
If you go to the Cleveland the City of Cleveland Encyclopedia, it tells you that it changed to MLK in 1981.
But did Liberty Row change to at all? Like,
Well, Liberty Row was the oak trees themselves.
right, exactly.
And Liberty Boulevard. So I don't know if there was a sign that depicted Liberty Row. You had all the little stamps that had all the soldiers' names on it with each of the oak trees. So that goes back to, they changed the name in 81. How long does it take them to change a sign? Maybe the sign doesn't change for a year or two. So I can't speak to that. I don't know how fast the city of Cleveland works. I know how slow the city of Houston is.
Yeah.
So,
because that was a thing in the interview where he was like, after the book came out, they changed the name. And I had to call Byron and tell him. And he was like, Byron liked it because it meant that the puzzle was part of like the legacy of the city or something. I forget how he worded it.
yeah.
So I always assumed it was way after the book came out.
No, I found it documented within within Cleveland that it changed that year, or the year of 81.
Huh.
But I have city maps, so that's the other thing, George. I'll have to get with you and get a Dropbox or something. I've got city maps scanned, the big ones, 2 foot by 3 foot or 3 foot by 4 foot, scanned from at work. These things are 20 meg, but the resolution of them is the important part, and they're from 1979, 1980. And all of that. And I want to be able to share that with everybody because I want the resources out there for folks to be able to look at it.
Yeah, that'd
You're
be
coming
great.
to St. Augustine, just put them on a thumb drive.
I thought about that.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
kind of what I was thinking.
Chris.
Rob had a good point in
Chris
the
hates us.
Rob had a good point in the comments where he said the maps he used may have not been up to date. Like maybe if he was using maps, like you get your ideas, or I don't know, or
Yep.
even just the material that he had sent to JJP. Or no, JJP was there. Never mind. He wouldn't have sent it.
You wouldn't have to send shit to Cleveland.
Yeah, right.
John was just down the road. I don't know.
No, but that's very true. We don't know where that information came from that he was working from, because he wasn't we're using Google. We know that.
Are we sold on it being Liberty Boulevard
Yeah.
and not
he said,
Liberty Row? Because
he said it was Liberty Boulevard.
being
John.
JJP.
John said it was
So-
Liberty Boulevard.
So there's
like,
two
you've
names
got-
there. There's two names. So I searched the Cleveland papers all the way back to 1900, all the way to 1990, looking for the word liberty and to determine, when did it change, all of these things. And early on, Liberty Row is mentioned a lot, particularly because of the fallen soldiers from the city of Cleveland and honoring them from World War I. As time passed, the phrase Liberty Row died out. And it was very seldom mentioned. It was mentioned a time or two. Liberty Boulevard lived on, and then it came that changed the name to MLK. And then after that, I very seldom found anything related to it unless it said once it was called Liberty Boulevard. But the Liberty Row, the way I understood it, Chris, was specifically talking about the oak trees, more so than the road. Now, it's possible Liberty Row predates Liberty Boulevard before World War One when they may have maybe renamed it. That I can't speak to.
Anything
It's
with this being
interesting that the
JJ.
verse calls out row, column, like I don't know. So there sometimes are
Understood.
just those little things that
Understood.
hard
And with
to
this
say.
being JJP's hometown, right? Like he grew up on the outskirts or lived on the outskirts. He could have just known it as, you know, it could be that he knew it as Liberty Boulevard or Liberty
Well,
Row, you know, and then didn't realize, oh, he missed the name change or the dedication, you know, to make it MLK or whatever, and didn't realize it till after.
absolutely. I mean, you know, like an example in Houston. I mean, do you call it OST or do you call it Old Spanish Trail?
Oh yeah, Old
mean,
Spanish Trail, because I'm just not around it enough to have to abbreviate it.
But I mean, that's the same road that,
Yeah.
that runs right through St. Augustine, where George is.
Sorry, I'm disconnected. There's like 7 people in the comments telling me I have to block somebody, and I can't see what they're saying. So I just went with group consensus and blocked the person.
Okay.
Sorry. Sorry, I was a little out of it for a second there.
Moderator mode.
Yeah.
In the sense where if JJP had local knowledge, you know, that could have colored some of the ways things that they did. And we may never have a good handle on that unless we have a native Clevelander. I don't know if that's the right name for them or not. Browns fan, would that work? Who can speak to that?
I mean, I've always kind of thought Cleveland should be taken out of these. When considering how the rest of the puzzles work, Cleveland should be removed. Because John isn't working in the same method with Byron that he's working on all the other puzzles. John is able to introduce way more imagery because he's right there. John's able to do way more creative things because he knows exactly, like he knows where it's buried. He knows when it was buried. He knows everything around it. So when considering clues for the other puzzles, you should remove Cleveland completely. Because it's almost impossible for it to work the exact same way as the others.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And if you
I don't
consider,
Well, I think now
go ahead.
Sorry. I think now at 40 years, we know for sure there's not another one that works like Cleveland, because we would have stumbled across a big old wall or, you know, like whatever it is, like from one of these paintings. There's no way that this many eyes have been on Google Maps in this, you know, like with this longitude and latitude that we have. There's no way that any other one could work the same as Cleveland, that you see it right off the bat and you're like, that is it. That is
in a verse that's so literal, that's like,
no, what do you
walk
think?
up these 7 steps,
Yeah.
count the blocks, and it's right there, even
And-
if it is on the opposite side, like still.
And the length of the verse, as far as the path, is like 2/10 of a mile. The road that curves, boom. I mean, you get around there and it's no length at all.
Yeah. I mean, it happens within half of a football field.
Yeah.
Isn't that true of Chicago as well?
2 city blocks with Chicago.
Yeah, well,
I
makes
mean,
the big
you're
circle.
you're going down one city block, down another city block, then down and back up that city block, but basically 2 city blocks.
Yeah, when you consider where the symphony is and where the cast was, it's less than like 15 hundredths of a mile or so.
Yeah. I mean, you could, like, if you got a ladder and you went, if you were in Chicago at the dig spot and you got a ladder and could see over that wall that's in front of you, you could see everything. It's just that wall that, like, you could probably throw a football across the road to somebody at the start of the puzzle if you were really good at football throwing. Probably not me.
Yeah, me neither.
Maybe once upon a time.
So what else? Give us another topic, so I can sit back here and be moderator.
You haven't touched on.
I gotta read some of these comments.
I mean, I don't know. I'm often surprised by how differently people view The Secret as a treasure hunt. Maybe that's the
Oh,
polite
dude,
way to
yeah.
say it.
Than any other treasure hunt ever.
Because just like, I was riffing a bit with Sean and someone else in the comments, and for me, like the litany is like core puzzle.
Mhm.
And for other people, they're just like, oh yeah, it's nice that the litany is like confirmation, but it's not, you don't need it.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking about, okay, well, like maybe you don't need it to find it. Like the Chicago guys like knew that the painting was Chicago, and like what I've heard was someone was like, oh well, there's like a railroad next to a Lincoln statue, maybe it's that one, and they just kind of like picked verse 12 and like went for it and got where they needed to be. But that's not truly, to me, that seems like brute forcey, not solving in a sense. And for me, the litany sort of like sits, and that's why this conversation about like the old litany is so dense, because and I think, George, maybe this was like part of what your polls have been about, right? Like it's like if the litany is like core to the puzzle and it changed, what impact did that have on the puzzle as a whole, that we got to 12 instead of 13, that we got to 12. That's their birth months, and not, I don't want to say random, but that it became more structured, or that it got more precise in its current format. And
I mean, it does seem like Byron would have to have an idea about this treasure hunt before he started working on it, right? You can't just be like, 1981, I decide I'm going to make a treasure hunt. Let's make it up from scratch right now and then publish it in a year and a half. It seems to me, in complete opinion, he would have thought about this for a while, and he would have had a bunch of different ideas. In the same way anybody that's making a treasure hunt or a puzzle has a bunch of ideas about how stuff could work, but then ultimately you got to tie it all together, right? And at some point he had to decide, like, this isn't tying together well. It's got to be changed. There's got to be some sort of structure. To me,
unifying something.
Like you were saying with Chris, that litany is the structure, the way to tie everything together, the way everything works. So whatever happened to this puzzle before that litany was changed does not matter to me, because it doesn't conform to the structure of the puzzle now.
Right.
So that's kind of the point that I was at with these polls, was like, here's some facts. Here's when the puzzle started, right? No matter what idea before he had, this is when the structure of the puzzle changed. So what does that mean going forward? How does that change your ideas, knowing that this stuff beforehand, even if it's true, might not matter afterwards? Does that make sense? Am I explaining it in a weird way? It's like the Big Bang. Like, there was shit before the Big Bang, but who cares? Because after the Big Bang, like, none of that matters. Yeah. Does that make sense? It's just made it worse. Never mind.
So, the thing is that, so one of the things that we found is that when he was a kid, and this is literally, I'm reading this, he developed treasure hunts when he was a kid, when he was at camp. So this is not something that he had never done before. He just hadn't done it on this scale before.
Oh, yeah.
So he said he would lead counselors and kids on a merry chase through the forest in the search of a buried prize of incalculable value, an old Frankie Valley album, wrapped in a shell of a pearl-like beauty, a Lay's potato chip bag. So it's not the secret, not by any means.
Yeah.
But it means that it's something that from a kid, he had thought about developing some type of treasure hunt.
Yeah.
Maybe he had been thinking it over the decades.
I guarantee he read Treasure Island at some point.
Yes, he did.
His life, right? Like,
I don't know. I do kind of for the Easter Bunny. Like, I do write clues for the Easter kids, and oh my gosh, that's fun. But it help. Like, I think everyone should write some clues, because it does help you in the way that you look at things. Like, what can you describe this as? What is a characteristic feature of this thing? Because it has to have the characteristic. that you can write about it. It can't just be written about anything. Like we stretch a lot of these verse lines into what, you know, where they could mean anything. They could be
Here-
anything. But if you
here-
turn
here-
it around the other way,
Sunday, here's the game that you need to host every week for a month or two. You share an object on screen, and you
okay.
have everybody write a description of it and submit it.
Oh, okay.
And then you
then
can
see
see the
what's like-
variety of the kinds of responses, and then you can use that to reflect back to say,
Yeah.
if this is what the community says, you know, how are we interpreting the things that were being provided from Byron?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, you know what? Like send out a message to whoever wants to play and then send them a picture. I sent a message to George not too long ago about that. I was like, should do a game where like everybody has to write us for a spot, write a verse, like a short verse that gets you to a spot in Central Park. Because a lot of people, that's a great way to test how solvable are the ways you think you're looking at this hunt, the methods that you're using to solve it, how solvable are they actually for other people to look at it and get to the same spot? You know?
So in college, we did a road rally, and myself and one of my good buddies, we did the directions, and we took them to one intersection where you had two streets that crossed that had the same name, but one was a street, one was an avenue, to purposely screw with them. And a lot of people missed it because we were specific, and they missed it. But I won't say how fast I think the people drove to be able to finish the thing, but that specificity is very important, but also being able to say it in a way that doesn't just flat give it out.
Exactly. Yeah.
There was a comment I wanted to answer, and then after that, James, you said a very specific word that brought something to my mind that I wanted to put on the Facebook page, but I'll just say it here. So, and I'm going to forget it after I answer this question. So just remind me it's about submitting if I forget. Where's the comment? Rob asked, it seems like he's talking about the months, I assume. It seems like it had to be shoehorned into 12 because of the months and hours, but also possibly the 12 tribes of Israel. Wasn't there a dinner note regarding this? And there was, but what you're missing from the dinner note regarding the 12 tribes of Israel is context. And the context of that is before that dinner with John Palancar had met with John Michaels at his house when John was working with Kit on the tribute. And they were throwing around a bunch of different shit for ideas for the tribute. And one of them was the 12 tribes of Israel. And it was explained to Kit while John was in the room about the idea behind I forget whose idea it was now. And I'm going to get yelled at because she's very nice. And I can't remember which of two ladies it was that came up with the 12 tribes. But her ideas were explained. And then later on, Leanne. And then later on at that dinner, we were talking specifically about the litany and the 12 and the months, and John Palancar was like, have you guys ever looked into the 12 tribes of Israel? And then that was written down in some notes that was put out without context. So was John telling us that had something to do with the 12 tribes of Israel, or was he telling that because someone else had told him that it had something to do with the 12 tribes of Israel? Who knows? I don't put a whole lot of stock into that quote from him, but you can feel free if you would like. The thing about submitting, we've always been curious, like this was part of the contracts that I was going to put out shortly, but I figured because we were kind of talking about some of the stuff tangentially related to it, I'll just read it here. We've always, people have always kind of wondered, like if the fair folks aren't important, why is there a place in the back to submit fair folks? Right? Like why can you submit your own fantasy creature if they're not important? So I'm going to read you this and keep it in the context of this is the publisher of fantasy books writing this, right? The author shall receive no revenue from price for the sale of the rights to any individual fantasy character contributed by any reader of the first edition or by any other individual submitting a fantasy character for use in any revised edition of the work or any sequel of the work. Like why was there a submission? Because a fantasy author was poaching fantasy characters from his fans and selling the rights to them.
Well, I mean, you think of it like this. You know, you've provided this book to thousands of people, hopefully hundreds of thousands, and if you can get ideas from them, that's a great way to expand your base.
Yeah.
She might have swallowed.
That's
My,
the other thing is that like one thing we kind of know about Byron is that he was innovative. He was like at the cutting edge, and he was doing user-generated content long before user-generated content was like
Yes.
a well-known thing. So, you know,
Sorry,
somehow
Rachel
that
came
doesn't
in.
surprise me.
Rachel's been repairing some wrought iron fencing around our house, and she's been using that steel stick stuff, that putty you get and you mix it together. And my dog got a hold of a tube of it and just chewed the shit out of it. And Rachel's like, "Is she gonna die?" No, she didn't eat any of it, but chewed the hell out of it.
Is it like JB Weld?
Yeah, it's that stuff that's stronger than JB Weld. It's like a putty you use to fix mufflers and stuff.
Okay.
And then it's like two things of putty, one inside each other, and then you squeeze it and you knead it together, and then you put it on iron. Yeah. Anyway, George, what do you think the supposed sequel that never came out would have been like? It would have been like the exact same. It would have been
On the
exact
other
same.
side of the country.
Maybe. I don't know. People talk about that driving distance thing, but what they don't realize is not a lot of people live there. You know, in
That's
comparison to the East Coast and West Coast, not a lot of people live in the Midwest.
Well, again, I'm going to make references to the stuff that I've read, and that, you know, they talked about major book buying markets is where they hid casks. So one of the things I had attempted to do, and I had never settled on, is I was trying to find the data that would help support what was that list of major book buying markets back in the day. I bought a couple of different books that were related to that, going, man, if I can identify this and just say, hey, here's 10 of the 12 right here in the top 10 list, that drives this list.
You would need 10 of the 12, because when you do mass, when you try to put all of these cities together and find some common bond, the two that always screw you up are St. Augustine and Roanoke. Like, it doesn't matter what bond you're trying to use, World's Fair exhibits or whatever. St. Augustine and Roanoke, two small towns, didn't have anything like that.
Well,
Book buying markets,
no.
Both had firsts. What a
it
coincidence.
did have firsts. Yeah, it had very prominent firsts. For the sequel, Byron Price would have hit a cask in St. Louis and Knoxville. Okay. I was so amped on the 13, man. I was so amped on St. Louis. Like, I was hoping someone would find something, and my dreams are dashed.
Well, the only thing that I can say there is, unless you went by lunar months, then you get to 13.
I don't even know how that works.
There's 13 full moons in any year.
There you go.
So,
You want to talk about 13 for a minute?
yeah, please.
Okay, so so the good thing about you putting out the other litany made me actually look at the 4 lines of the published litany that I never pay attention to, the first 2 lines and the last 2 lines, because normally I'm just like, I'm so focused on reading about each gem and each immigration. And I was reading the last 2 lines, and it says, wonder and glory 13-fold. These are the treasures the fair folk bring. And I was like, 13-fold is like a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
It seems like a weird phrase. You wouldn't necessarily say it like that. And I was like, okay, what are things that you fold 13 times? And it turns out one of the things you fold 13 times is Old Glory.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
And it just
So-
happens to say glory right before that.
It just happens. So that I've been teasing at this weird flag thing for a while, and I don't really know what to do with it, or whether it's not actually existent. But in verse 7, which I'm very familiar with, there's a little bit of the Pledge of Allegiance in there, and justice for all. The end of the Pledge of Allegiance. I assume that's something that you Americans would be very familiar with. it's hard to not sort of pick out certain words in the treasure poem. Like the first treasure poem, emeralds dark and ruby embers. Oh no, it's sorry. For treasure shining, moon glow amber, emeralds dark and ruby embers. Amber shining, amber waves of grain, sea to shining sea. Like I imagine these might be words that might trigger. They trigger me, and I don't know if it's some sort of bias that I have, but
I think it makes sense.
I don't know. I feel like there's something there.
Yeah, the building of America, or like how we're becoming, the immigration coming and building. Yeah,
Old
I can
world
see
to
it.
the new world.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it would make
I don't
sense.
know.
Oh, that does, Chris.
One question I have always is like, how the hell did he expect us to find abroad in America? So these kind of little nuggets, I think, like, is there something else that I'm missing that you put together and you get to abroad in America? We're like talking about America the Beautiful and we're talking about the flag, or is there something else that I'm skirting around that he's, because it seems like he uses illusion a lot. It's not he wants to get you in the mindset of something rather than tell it to you specifically. Like that's a very like puzzle maker thing to do. I don't know. These are things I think about.
So when you think about Thucydides and Xenophon, or because that was both in Cleveland and in Boston. Because when you look at the wall in Cleveland and the Greek Cultural Garden, it has both those names on there. So, okay, there's a couple of things that where do we find that? Like you see, exactly like you're talking about abroad in America. You think about the references, for example, Houston, when it talks about the Herman Melville book. Unless someone is well read, they're not going to find that. So there are a lot of things that, if we were meant to find those, what were the clues that he may have left? What were those breadcrumbs to get there? So that's the only piece of it that I thought, it's not in the verses, clearly. It's not in the paintings. So is that in the back of the book? I've not given a lot of credence to the back of the book, and maybe shame on me, but I've always felt like the front of the verses and the litany and the paintings were what you really needed to solve this. But that question has always eluded me as well, as to what was supposed to lead you to those very clear references.
Well, I mean, it could be like we were talking about before. Being well read could have been to your advantage because these are huge clues. They're not like tiny little things.
Yeah.
The Abroad in America book, if you were to find that, or if you were to know about either of those letters that are being written about in abroad, because Abroad in America, if we're being honest, could be a coincidence. It could be that Byron saw this exhibit, he picked a couple of things out of the exhibit, didn't know there was going to be a book written, like a companion. He could have been trying to get you to look at with Sarmentio, however you pronounce his letters, not Abroad in America specifically.
Right.
But if you were to have found these two things, they would have blown two cities wide open. They would have given you, 3/4 of the puzzle. It would have told you where to, what city to look at. So it's kind of the same with the smaller literary stuff. Like Herman, if you were to figure out Houston and you figured out the Melville quote, you would basically know the park, right? Like they are obscure, these literary references, but they give you big information when you figure them out. So that might have been the point, was to make these big explosive information dumps really obscure and harder to find.
Well, and what's interesting is that in the Melville quote, it has the word cask in it, not in what we use in the verse, but if you read the rest of that paragraph, it mentions, and it's basically talking about hiding that thing that is special, with its cask and keeping the keys safe. And I find that very interesting that the same spelling, the same word is in that Melville quote is what's being used in The Secret, and wonder if that's the origin, one of the potential origins of that.
My son is coming.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know you were in the middle of the podcast.
Yes, you did. You do this every week.
No, I didn't mean
good,
to.
Good night. Have a good night.
Good night.
Sweet dreams.
I don't know. I mean, you're already going to be in a library, though, right? I mean, you would think if you're going to be doing any kind of researching, I mean, does that already, like you said, Chris, put you in the frame of mind? I mean, how much would you? How common was it to look in a book of quotations? Like, I don't remember ever doing it, but I was a kid, you know, like, or I was, by the time I came up with research papers
Yes.
and stuff like that, that was already.
I barely remember having to do that. Like my use of card catalogs and old research was like elementary school. So I wasn't looking up things like Thucydides.
Yeah.
Like I could see how you would get to a book of quotations. What I can't see is how you would take a name like Edwin or Edwina and
Right.
research where that name was used.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can't just go to a card like you can go to Google now and search Edwin and see every place that it's been mentioned throughout the history of, you know, time.
Right.
But you can't just go to a card catalog and I'm going to look up E and then, oh, let's check out all of these books. I don't know how you would do that.
Yeah,
And
some of
that's
them
why,
definitely would be a lot easier to find than others.
yeah, and I think that one is probably something that's so Charleston specific. Who knows? Maybe a previous generation could have just said, snap their fingers, and they know what we were talking about. You know, whether it's Harleston or, and I can't think of the other Edwin and Edwina that's in abroad in America at the moment.
Leiden.
Yes, yes. But maybe that's more specific to the city than it would have been some book that we would have found. But
Well, that makes you think of like Chicago too, you know, like if you've got the Charleston painting and then you're like, okay, well now I got to figure out what verse I'm going to go with. Then, you know, you maybe recognize some things from the verse and that's how you pair it. Instead of you were able to find instead of out of the entire US, you being able to figure out what Edwin and Edwina was, maybe same thing as they did in Chicago, where, you know, they were able to pare down which verse went with it because they recognized some things that just fit with the verse.
the water
And
tower.
even if you're a Charleston person, that's some obscure history though.
I'd have to look at the other parts of the verse, but maybe not that part of the, maybe that part of the
But
verse.
lest we forget, Charleston is the diamond, and we may expect that to be the hardest one.
Hardest, yeah.
Mhm.
That or still kills me. That or in that verse where the previous pairing of lines where there's an or, both of them mean the exact same thing. And that
Yes.
one kills me because Edwin and Edwina should mean the exact same thing as the line above it. On the 8th, the
Yes.
scene where, yeah.
But that's a similar phraseology that was in Treasure Island in part of it, where they had the repeated or statements. So he's kind of mirroring what Stevenson did.
But
I
that's the illusion thing. Like, I didn't know that one, but you know, even if you're thinking about verse 1, and this is a Phoenix original, but like he says, there's the spout, you know, and if that's getting you into the mind of there she blows, and we're thinking about Moby Dick, all of a sudden we've got spouts. Does that, like, making you think about Moby Dick, get you thinking about Melville? Does that take you to Pierre? I don't know, but
It's creative.
Yeah.
Both of those things. I didn't know about the or statements in Treasure Island either. Can you expand on that any?
Yeah, let me pull. I've got something that I'd written up, of course. I think I shared it at one time. But when you look at Charleston, let's see, image matches. That's on the White House there. Verse. Y'all sing and dance for a minute while I look for this.
I mean, even nowadays we don't. I mean, I don't know. Do you think maybe? he
No,
was
Sunday,
right?
sing. You're supposed to sing.
Oh, I'm not going to.
this becomes
No one
the
wants that.
karaoke edition.
Okay. But even now, like, do you think maybe he was writing some different types of clues for different kinds of people? Like, because May 1913 is definitely boots on the ground. Like that is, or maybe, you're in Charleston, you've seen it, or you know that's downtown in the park, that kind of thing. Whereas Edwin and Edwina, even today, like you said, I agree with you, George, like boots on the ground, like that should, you should be able to find like Edwin and Edwina, because it's right there with the or, and you're just it. I don't know. Maybe he's writing different types of clues for different types of people, like some literary clues that literary people will latch onto, and some, map clue, or whatever, clues that other types of people will latch onto, like the latitude and longitude, or that kind of stuff.
There's been this thing in my head since way before me and JM worked together that I remember seeing a newspaper article in Charleston about a ship named the Edwin or the Edwina or something like that had burned down and was somewhere like near the harbor of White Point Gardens. I remember somebody posting something about that saying I was wrong, but I clearly remember it.
There's a photo of a schooner named Edwina that was driven up near the battery following a storm. There's a photograph of it, I think, in the book, The Battery.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Was it there for a long time?
It doesn't describe a time frame. It shows the photograph. It mentions the name of the schooner, and which is obviously, it's when you hear Edwina and it's a schooner, then it ties back to things. And I do know that Harleston was in shipping. So the senior Harleston. Sorry, this is taking me a moment to find this. I've got way too many files to.
That's okay.
Nice me.
Yeah. None of us could imagine with that.
It's like a mess, like scribbled notes, and like I'm disorganized.
I tried to, like, recently the past couple of weeks I've been going through old data, like old archives, and trying to arrange it, and it's crazy. Everything's duplicate shits. Instead of like, and whenever I want something, I just like, if I need to make notes for a podcast, I'll just take a folder from my backup drive and I'll copy it onto my desktop. And then later on, I'm like, do I have this in my backup drive? So I'll move it back to the backup drive. So I've got like 4 of the same folders. It's a
Look
mess.
at this app. There's an app. It's like something called like Check My Files or something like that. That will look it up. I mean, I'm not sure what that's the name of it,
This
but it
is
will.
how you keep getting hacked. Stop using these random.
So yeah, I found it. I shared this somewhere back around July 30th. So when you look at the verse, it talks about freedom at the birth of a century, or May 1913, Edwin and Edwina, named after him, or on the 8th of scene. When you look at Treasure Island, the epigraph, it says, his ancient appetites forgot, Kingston, or Valentine the Brave, or Cooper of the Wood and Wave. So there, when he's talking about those particular things, those are other authors that predated Stevenson or were contemporaries of him.
Yeah, they're all in that. They're all of the romance retold age.
But the other part of this is that when it says men of tales and tunes, cruel and bold, then when you get back over there, that's storm and adventures, heat and cold, schooners, islands, and maroons, and buccaneers, and berry gold. And so there's the ors and the ands are very similar between the two. I don't know that it means something, but it's just something that I had identified, because you've also got things like where law defended, or where these and their creations lie. You've got common words are bar, below the bar that binds, or the bar silver is in the north cache, because when you look at the directions to the treasure that are on the back of the map within Treasure Island, tall tree, spyglass shoulder and a bearing, skeleton island, 10 feet. The bar silver is in the north cache. The arms are easy found in the sand hill. And a lot of those tied back to the same word that's in the verse. So it's not just the epigraph, but it's the directions on the back of the treasure map in the book could potentially tie back to that verse. because in the treasure map, the bar silver is talking about, it's talking about silver bars. The arms, it is talking about cannon, or it's talking about muskets, or it's talking about something like that. But I also, when I saw tall tree, it made me think of St. Augustine and the use of that phrase there.
So it sounds
Well,
like
I know that
definitely
verse
can.
isn't tied to that, but it just, when you read the book, the tall tree is a marker for how to find the treasure. So I don't know, George, I posted it somewhere around the end of July or 1st of August.
I'll go look
So
for
you
it.
should be able to find it.
Yeah. I will go
Just look for where it says asshole James, and
We only have about 10 minutes left. So is there anything anyone wanted to get in?
there was something else, but I've done an awful lot of talking. Chris, or
That's fine.
somebody-
Please talk.
Okay, give me another moment here.
I gotta have Chris back soon so we can talk about we can have a much broader front of the book discussion.
Ooh, good.
I think I want to get Brett in on that. I think he would have fun. Maybe me, you, Brett, and Cole. That'd be fun.
Yeah, let's do it. You can always talk about the front of the book.
Well, dig back in that pile, George. Tell us something else.
Yeah.
I'll just pull out a random page here.
Okay.
What page did I pull out?
Drum roll.
Must be a good one. I saw the eyebrows.
It's a contract. I'm just wondering if I can read it. Let me try another page. That was an artist
A
contract.
manuscript page.
Here's the Philharmonic Orc. It's basically unchanged. Filthy Hobbit.
Chris, did you hear earlier where George said he has the original submissions from? Oh, George, did you talk about what it was? Submit. What was?
Oh yeah. It was the
thing?
submitting
Okay.
of the thing.
Yeah, he has.
There's a bunch of these where like the names are completely changed. Like it's the same fair folk, but they just changed the name. And there's actually several in here that aren't in the book at all. So that should be fun. Fairy Godfather, the Might.
Like the fairy godfather.
It's the what's the one that's for immigration? The one that like is at border crossings.
Oh, Don Fawn, or
Yeah, it's that one.
Yeah.
It's that one.
that
Like
was
range,
Fairy Godfather?
American border ports of entry, airports, docks, bus stations, and major roads. It was the Fairy Godfather.
That's weird.
And then the Might. She preys exclusively upon the imaginations of the elderly. The southern coast of Florida is her natural habitat.
Oh, let me throw something out here that there was a theory that I'd had about starting point image matches. I won't go into a lot of it. I think some of y'all may have seen it. I actually found that Matt Sparks had the same idea 15 or 20 years ago.
Oh, then
Added
it's
it to
wrong.
T4T.
I'm mad.
But, as I was looking at these, I looked at Chicago and I looked at Cleveland and I tried to make it work for Boston, but there may be confirmation bias there. But I look at New York and I look at St. Charles, or not St. Charles, but Charleston, and I see the Statue of Liberty, I see Fort Sumter. And I say those are very clearly iconic areas. Now, because you arrived at them by ferry, if the idea that I had is that you had to physically be able to move along that visual path till you reach the verse, it meant you had to ride the ferry. Well, if you're doing that with the Statue of Liberty, you would have only landed at Battery Park. There at Castle Clinton. I know that Sunday would like to hear that. For Fort Sumter, you would have landed on the west side of the peninsula And then to get to White Fort Garden, you'd have to go through the city. So then if it's visual, well, at White Point Garden, there's a Fort Sumter monument. Maybe that monument at White Point Garden is the tie back to Fort Sumter, the island. And so you don't have to do that. But I'm kind of waning on the idea of there being a path from that. Although there are a lot of cities like San Francisco, I swear to goodness that I cannot find what I would call that starting point, because to me, finding a starting point in every city is kind
All the fingers.
I
All
know,
the fingers. They'll take you to the starting point.
I know. Milwaukee City Hall, that's easy. I don't know. That's what I wanted to share. Is that's a theory that I still like, but I don't know that it's valid. I think that maybe I'm down a rabbit hole on that.
It's still fun to go down the rabbit holes. Like you never know what you're going to find that's going to help later on.
I'm with you though. I think there's a start and an end encoded within the puzzle. Some may appear in the painting, some might be more explicitly in the verse, but I do think there are points of reference. I don't like to say start and end because it makes it feel like there is necessary a path, but I do think there are these key points of interest that are called out, and you have to have a first one, which would be your start. But
And like Montreal, I don't know that the legator is strong enough for it, but it's within the golden square.
follow the fingers. It'll get you right there again.
But I also think that the building from the '76 Olympics, it looks like a pyramid. And if you take his collar and invert it, it's a pyramid. So is that something? I don't know. Maybe again, it's me trying to see something that's not truly there. All right, y'all. I'm probably talked out, or y'all are probably tired of hearing my voice.
Not tired of hearing your voice.
Really
You can come back
fun.
anytime. Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you. I'm just happy to have not had to be the one that talks for 2 hours.
Well, they called me Motormouth as a kid, so my
Well,
initials spelled Shaw.
Well, Motormouth, make your post about getting everybody together on Friday, so we'll all. Oh, look, it's a child. Hi, child.
My yabby.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you tell us where the casts are buried, please?
Yeah. Tell us where Houston is.
I don't know.
What's in my spot?
Make a guess about St.
No
Augustine, and
spot.
I'll go dig it for you.
Here.
Make your post about St. Augustine when wherever you want to meet, and we'll all get together, because I feel like like I said before, I feel like there's a lot of people out there who are wanting to get together, and none of them want to make that post. So if you make
Will
one
do.
post, more will come up. So
Will do.
all right,
Post
cool.
it,
We're
they
gonna
will
end.
come.
Huh?
Hi guys. It's
You're
fun.
still
If
what?
you post it, they will come.
If you post it, they will come.
Yeah,
Chris,
I don't
won't
want to
come.
get there and be a party of one.
Oh,
If you, I
100
promise you,
people coming?
if you make a post, I promise you I'll come. So it'll at least be a party of 2.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Bye,
All right,
guys.
I'm gonna end the stream. Bye, everybody.